afternoon, everyone. Colonel Eric Lopez. Just a quick introduction. I'll start with my family. I've been married 20 years. My wife is Christy. I've got two boys. Ryan is 17 and Nathan is 15. So I do have a high school senior, and I am navigating the world of college applications. And I would not wish that on my worst enemy. I would rather slog through thousands any day than have to plow through these college applications, but that's where we're at. As a family, I am an infantryman. I've had the privilege of commanding a rifle company and a rifle battalion in Afghanistan, and I've served as a battalion operations officer and brigade operations officer in Iraq. After the war college, I will embark on a new adventure when I take the 3rd Recruiting Brigade at Fort Knox. Very excited about that opportunity, and it's going to be very different. The story of how I joined the Army really begins with my father's story, and it's like many people's story when it comes to the Army. It's full of incredible opportunities that the Army offered my father. He was born in San Bernardino, California. He was the youngest of 10 children. Drafted into the Army in 1964 and was stationed in Germany. He was an administrative clerk, but he auditioned and was selected to the 7th Army Soldiers Chorus. And that gave him a great opportunity to sing, to improve as a vocalist, and to travel all over Europe. When he left the Army 2 years later, he attended New York University and then Yale University, where he studied vocal performance. So I was born in Yale New Haven Hospital. Grew up in that area, and I knew nothing about the Army. I was not raised in a military family, but when my dad took me to a West Point briefing as a junior in high school, I was sold. So the Army offered opportunities to my father, a young Hispanic kid from California, that changed his life and ultimately shaped and changed my life and gave me the opportunities and chances that I never would have had. And I want to stay on that theme of opportunity and leave you with a few thoughts. Our very own Army War College Colonel Mike Hosey and Miss Caitlin Griswold, recently wrote an article that was published on the War Room website entitled "The Meritocracy Myth: Challenges to the Army Officer Corps." And their thesis was to reflect the diversity of our nation. We need more minorities and women in combat arms branches to ensure we have more minorities and women as senior leaders in our Army. And you might be asking, how can I help? What is my role to build diversity in our Army? And I think all of us have two ways that we can help build diversity in our Army. And the first way is to identify talented Hispanic and all minority soldiers and NCOs in your formations and encourage them to become officers. Many of these soldiers have never given thought to going to college. They might have been raised in a family where the culture just wasn't oriented on college. It wasn't in their pedigree. But it's our job to convince them. Look at my father. He never thought he could go to college. He never thought he could afford it. He didn't think he was smart enough. He ended up at Yale University through the opportunities that the Army offered him. I remember talking to young Hispanic soldiers in my battalion, and I'd say, hey, what kind of grades did you get in high school? Well, sir, I got a 3.7. Well, what did you get on your SATs? I got a 1200. Did you ever think about becoming an officer? Never crossed my mind. And that's a reflection of how they were raised. And I would just ask you, when you see those talented young Hispanic and any minority soldiers, encourage them to think about going to OCS and seeking out a college education and becoming an officer. The second way you can help build diversity in our officer corps and ultimately in our Army Senior Leader Corps is to encourage leaders to branch combat arms and to take tough jobs. This is a little bit of a stereotype, but often we see Hispanic officers seek assignments that are location focused, often based on where their family is. Okay, so let's just say it. There's a lot of Hispanic officers serving in San Antonio, Texas, and in Miami, and that's not wrong. I'm not saying that's wrong. What I'm saying is, in our Army today, to get promoted, you have to seek tough jobs in elite competitive units, and that is asking a lot of these young leaders. We're asking him to move away from your family, to work in a very tough job in a very tough environment where there's very few people like you. But that's important. All of us in here should be mentors. All of us in here will have Hispanics and minorities in our rating chain that we are mentors for. And if we don't encourage them to do these two things, we're going to struggle with diversity in the future. I would say one thing is don't be scared to bring somebody in and talk to them and address them about their race, no matter what race you are, because they're special. They're special and different, and they're we want to cultivate it. So it's okay to bring them in and say, hey, let's talk about some of the challenges that you're going through, and as a mentor, how can I help you with that? Just as I was sitting here, I noticed that Colonel Ortiz was signal. I have a young Hispanic signal leader. I said, hey man, I got to get you connected. I got to get Oz connected with him because of that commonality. So it's okay. We don't just have to pretend like everybody's the same. Everybody's not the same when it comes to this, especially in an infantry environment where the amount of minorities is low. It's okay, and it doesn't matter what race you are, to bring in somebody and say, hey, let's talk about some of the challenges that you're going through. I'm not a woman. I'm going to have females in my formation. It's okay to come in and talk about, hey, what challenges are you facing, and how can I help? I think that's a good mentor role that we all need to do. So, as a future Army recruiter, we put my recruiter hat on, and the Army is an incredible place where diversity is cherished and honored. And it's, again, a lot of times outside organizations don't see us like that. They see us as all male dominated, and they may have negative perceptions about the Army. But I know through my experience, man, it is a place where diversity is honored, where it truly is the strength of how we operate. So I would tell them, if you're confused, go talk to an Army recruiter and think about coming to a real team where diversity is honored. It's a cycle right now where you don't see a lot of diversity in combat arms units. So people look at that and say, I don't see anybody like myself there, so I'm going to choose a combat service support unit, and that's a logical choice. The question is, how do we break the cycle? And one way to do it is for when we get minority senior leaders in positions in combat arms units, they need to communicate. I'll give you an example. When Ron Clark, who's a general officer now, when he was at West Point, he's African American. The number of, and he's an infantryman, the number of infantrymen, African American infantrymen coming out of West Point, like quadrupled, because they saw it modeled. That's why I think days like today are important, and that's why I think it's important to do what I say is to identify those people who have the traits that can do it, they've got that sparkle in their eye, they've got that instinct that we're looking for, and encourage them, because they may have never thought about going to college, they may have never thought about going to combat arms, but showing them modeled it, showing them somebody who's modeling it, and showing that it can be done, I think is really, really important.